Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Well, the past month or so, the Australian market has been a little strange. One week it's moving up and the next week it is moving down. Now tonight, we're going to take a look at the All Ordinaries Index. We'll also give you our thoughts on what we believe our Australian stock market will do moving forward. Now we're also going to get into a hot topic right now, and that is precious metal stocks and which ones to buy right now. First up, we'll share our hot stock tip for the week before taking a deep dive into the Australian stock market. So sit back and relax as we answer your emails, take your phone calls, and we give you the answers to some of the most important questions on the Australian stock market. Hello and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. I'm Dale Gillam, your host for tonight, and joining me is Janine Cox, and we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators.
Well, thanks Dale, and hello everyone. We are covering an area of the market that can make you rich. Precious metals are well known for their highs, and we've got lots of metal stocks including gold and silver to share. First, let's get into the hot stock tip.
My hot stock tip is a ripper this week, you know that?
Is it?
Yeah, it's
What's
a ripper.
A
It's called ARB. ARB Corporation. I thought that would make you laugh and get the show off to the road, but anyway, let's go and have a look at market index. I've just got up.
You always make me laugh. You don't even have to do that.
Well, I know that too.
I just look at you sometimes and I laugh.
So I'm not even going to get into that because I'll get into trouble if I comment on that one. So what we're saying is ARB Corporation here, obviously. Volume's around 182,000, so it's not a big stock, but it's around $29, as you can see there. And the dividend yield's on the low end, only 2.18%, but it is sort of that a lower end stock, but it is doing some interesting things. Now, today, like a lot of stocks, it sort of had a big dip, so the chart looks a little bit different than when I did bring it up. But looking at this, you can see how it's quite volatile over there, and more recently it's falling away. And I will look at a big...
It's just really gone up and down and sideways, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And this is the thing, it's, it's down about 11% obviously in that last 1 week, but it's not looking too bad. It's in the mid-cap sector. So that mid-cap sector, you're going to get some good stocks. It's a consumer cyclical stock, but its EPS is not too bad at $1.07. From that, but I think it's got some prospects for the future.
Actually, what I always have a little chuckle about is when you look under the broker consensus on this.
Oh, the broker. So 6 brokers say it's a buy, 6 say it's a hold, and 2 say it's a sell. So if they've all,
what do we do?
What do you do? I actually like that because it's like, well, if they're brokers, they should know what they're doing. So why they've all got different consensus? They should all
must
be
be
voting
looking at different data.
They must be looking at different data. So the recommendation, how they got that is hold, is the recommendation.
Yeah.
But let's have a look at the chart and see what the chart's actually telling us now. On the left, we've got the monthly, and the right, we've got the weekly return.
Yep.
Do you have anything you want to say?
So do we agree with that hold?
No.
Why not?
I don't think I've ever agreed with a broker on their recommendation.
Look, I have to agree with the hold at the moment.
Would you? If you own it, you'd be holding it.
Yes.
So why would you own it at the moment?
Well, you might have bought it on a trend line.
You might have bought it on a trend line? Way back here.
Yep.
Way back there in August last year. But looking at this, it trends really well, and it's just coming back. And what I think at the moment, it's just really coming back to this line that we've got here. So it's got a little bit more to go before it flushes out. But I think once it gets around that, that'll be a nice place to look at it for a potential buy. So right now here, it's closed today at 29.35. We still got about 17-18%. I think it'll wash out to that, and if it gets down to that level, that's a pretty strong level for this stock. Around sort of $26, $27 is a very, very strong level for this stock.
Now, what sort of pattern is that?
A nice one.
You used to baffle people. We'd go to a workshop, and then Dale would come out with these things, and he'd say, "Do you know this is a startle myopia?" And everybody would look blank and think, Well, I thought I knew something about the stock market.
I said, oh, is this a P or a B? Yeah, okay, okay. So, geez,
Yeah.
I've forgotten some of those things that I used to do, and that just
I haven't.
to do that with you. I know. You've got a memory like an elephant. You keep reminding me things. But let's go on to the, I just want to show you here, actually, I forgot a little bit on here on the monthly chart. So I've just put some price analysis on there, some really, really basic stuff. And you can see here, it's got a level there at $27.50, another one at $21 through there. So as I said, $26, $27 is a pretty strong area for there. So I would expect it, if it did drop down below that, to hit this green line and then start to take off. And I don't think it's going to take too long before it gets there. I think it's going to wash out pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's an interesting pattern, isn't it?
It is a very interesting pattern, but I think we're on that last ditch effort that'll wash out and then come
When I
be
see
nice little
patterns
stop.
like that, I just love to go through a bit of a trawl through different stocks and see if I can find other stocks that look similar to get a broader understanding of what it's doing. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Well, I like it, but you're a sick puppy, so maybe I should put myself in that box as well. But looking at it on the weekly chart, you can see it had a lot more volume going through here from this low back in 2020 after the COVID low. Volume's a little bit lower nowadays in this last year, but it has been going sideways a lot, and it did cross that trend line back, as we mentioned, into July last year. So it's really been going sideways and consolidating. But if you look here, that major low there, 24.84. This one's slightly higher at 25.21. I think it's got a little bit more just to wash out, go below those, finish its run down, and then take off from there. But you want to explain anything else on it?
Look, the interesting thing would be is if it does follow the angle of that line down like you suspect it might, because it'll be a similar angle to where it actually traded down here.
Correct. All right, well, there's anything else you want to say on ARB?
No, you've blown us away again as usual.
Okay, well, that's my weekly hot stock tip.
Thank you. Well, that is it for Dale's weekly hot stock tip. Now it's your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. Remember, we prioritise phone callers, so call now on 03 9290 9988. That's 03 9290 9988, or you can text that number on your screen.
Yeah, give us a big text. Now, to give you an incentive, the first caller into the show right now gets a free copy of my book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So make sure you pick up your phone and dial 03 9290 9988 and do that right now. While you do it, tonight is the first Tuesday in the month, which means we can have a big deep dive and take a look at the All Ordinaries Index. So let's get into the charts, Janine, and see what we can see for the All Ordinaries Index.
Well, I've got something really pretty for you on the screen there. Do you want to have a look?
Pretty.
Yeah, it's very pretty, see?
Pretty good.
Okay. Now this one, I hope so.
What is it?
This is actually the All Ords, and I've overlaid BHP over the top just so that we can have a bit of a look at the difference between the broader market, which obviously combines the materials, financials, and is being affected by the heavy, heavyweights in the market, the
So
top
why
20.
specifically BHP?
Well, I just thought if BHP's just hanging there at the moment and it hasn't fallen away, so we've seen stocks like CSL fall heavily, banks are holding there, big miners are holding their ground, and just wanting to see how the market's stacking up to that and where it actually changed along its rise. Where was it different? So we know that back here when the tsunami hit in 2011, the miners all took a deep dive, and we saw that fall back into 2016. Now, even though the market looks different to BHP, we still saw the correction of the market fall into February 2016 along with the miners. Then we come forward across to the right.
But that was in line with the banks. The banks and financials are driving it up
Banks and financials,
into early 2015.
That's so true. That's so true. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've said in the past at times the miners will be, pushing ahead, but the banks will be lagging, or vice versa, and so our market doesn't take off. And this is probably, this period now is one of the longest periods in time that we've seen the market trade sideways for, without getting bumped out. I mean, there was this time here in 2013 through there before it tried to push up in 2015. We had after the GFC, we had this pushed sideways, which is sort of not too dissimilar to what we've seen recently. You know, there's a really strong rise into the high, bit of a pullback after the GFC, and then a move back up at the tsunami hit. We've seen a really strong rise into the high, a pullback by the market, and I'm just going to expand that so you don't say, well, what are we supposed to be looking at?
That's a good idea.
Pull back and then a rise again and then a move sideways again. So are we going into this, you know, pull back that we've seen, you know, the tsunami
So what's
drove
the answer?
that
What are
down.
you telling us?
Well, there's got to be an event, right? For this. We were just stuck in no man's land. So either, you know, something's catastrophic is going to happen that causes our market to have this flush out like we did when the tsunami hit, or it's going to be, if we go back to what happened here, or it's going to be something more like this. So, you know, we had, since 1999, we had the Asia crisis, so we had similar themes back in 1998, 1999, and then the market just went sideways after that for quite a few years. So, you know, are we setting up for something very much similar to that?
So what's your opinion? What are we going up or down?
Well, we're not going up until we go through the high, of course.
So you're saying we're going down?
I'm saying we're not going anywhere until we go through this high here. If we go through that high there in September, obviously we're going up. And at the moment, if we just take off the BHP chart there, if I get a horizontal line and we draw it across here, it's a magic line. See that?
It is. It's a disappearing line.
Okay. You can see there's a really nice line across there. So until the market goes through that in a strong way, then, you know, I'm saying that it's going to hold its ground at the moment.
Okay, cool. All right.
So is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Okay. You've said it in your market wrap, haven't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody's watched my market wrap yesterday knows my thoughts on the awards.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm not going to try to compete with that. Well, that's it for our thoughts on the All Ordinaries Index. Now, let's get into our first email.
Alrighty, our first email is from Brendan, and Brendan says, "Hi Dale and Janine, love the show. I've been following LOT for a while, mostly due to the miner focused on energy-related minerals and potential for upside. Now, I did a trend off the peaks of the highs in 2022 into 2023 and bought in at 21 cents in July 2023. It's a bit of a wild ride, this stock, with some large fluctuations on the day or week. I have a stop loss at 15% under my initial investment, but would like advice on whether the buy signal was there in July and what sort of exit strategy would be the best for the stock's fluctuations. So much. Cheers, Brendan." So
a really well thought out question. I really like that, Brendan. Good stuff. Now, and a really interesting stock too. I'm really excited by how it's pulled back the way that it has, and it's very orderly. It's, you know, you can almost see it. It looks by design. You just look at these things, and I'm just trying to find your trend line in there. There it is.
we said it bought a trend line. So was he's asking about whether his buy is correct. So tell me about his buy.
Well, he's saying he bought on a trend line, so I'm not sure where his trend line comes in, but it probably is somewhere in there. And so I'd say that's pretty nice where he's bought in there around that 21 cent mark, I think he said. And since then it's moved back up, but it's just struggling to get going with all this indecision.
It's a bit of liquid though. And I wouldn't suggest a trend line in this stock at all. When you've got more illiquid stocks, trend lines don't tend to work as well.
Well, look, I agree with you most of the time, but in this case, I'm going to agree with Brendan because...
I'm not disagreeing with Brendan. I'm just saying, in general, on lower liquid stocks, trend lines don't work well.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
You're right.
I'm not specifically talking about LOT.
Yes, correct.
So you took it that way.
I said in this case, I'm going to agree with Brendan.
Good. You can agree with Brendan.
Okay. So,
you're lucky.
Yes, that's fantastic. But look, at the moment, there's this indecision going on, isn't there? So it could be that the stock pulls back temporarily to find support, and there is some decent support under those recent highs there. So I'm still liking it. What do you think?
I'm just a little bit confused at his buy, because obviously that there is May, that there is July. So if that's where your trend line is, how are we buying over here?
Well, it depends where he's drawn his trend line.
And if he's bought here, that means he's bought August, and here is May. So how did he buy for? Was it 21 cents?
21 cents.
Yeah. So to me, that's what's that one? 20 cents. So
Or 21 something, it might not have been exactly.
yeah, so I mean, to me, that's way past a trend line buy. So if he's using a trend line as his rule, he hasn't followed the rules properly for a trend line, unless he's got his trend line at a different spot that we have, and I can't see the trend line being somewhere up here to get you a
but
buy.
don't you think he's being smarter? Like, he's seen that the stock's traded above the trend line, but there's a bit of indecision down there, and following that, it's
So
actually...
you're reading a lot more into his email. You're trying to give him a lot more kudos.
Yeah,
I'm just saying he's asked whether his buy is the right buy, and I'm just saying if it's a trend line buy, then he probably hasn't followed the rules.
If it was strictly to the book, is that
Correct.
what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. But if he's got other rules and stuff, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And his stop loss, let's have a look at his stop loss. So stop loss of around, was it 15%? I think
He said 15% of his buy price.
which is somewhere down here, which I think that's fine as well. It's not on these lows here, so
Yeah, I
that
don't
would
mind
be nice,
that, I
but
actually think.
it's good. I
So
like
how would you just, I mean, this is, again, it's a lower liquid stock, and you can see the amount of volume that's gone in last week on this sort of bar through here. So we've got a lot more volume coming in that's moved up, and it will probably move pretty fast.
Can you just hand the mouse? I'll just take the mouse back.
You can, yep.
Okay,
I'm not
thank you.
going to get into that.
And if we look at the high, so it's actually risen 36% during that time that he's purchased it. It's coming back, but like you rightly said, with a lower liquidity stock, sometimes the trend lines don't work. So with a big stock, you would be really comfortable about that coming back to give you a point for your trend line.
I would be, absolutely, and I was about to
Yeah.
look at where do we put some sort of trend line on that.
So we haven't got a trend line yet, but we need to wait for one. But we may get one confirmed, but we might not because of that volatility. So that's the risk with these sort of stocks in trying to trade it.
Well, he needs to have a good
like
trailing
big
stop
stock.
on this one, doesn't it? That's really what you're trying to say. So you're saying if, obviously if we do get a trend line up here, use that.
Yep.
But yeah, because obviously your initial stop loss is 15% from your buy price. So now you need to be looking at
Raising that up.
yeah, raising that up. And that's all we're saying there, Brendan. So do that. So I believe we do have a question now, do we? On S32 from Gerard. So Gerard's wanting us to talk about S32. So do you want to bring up S32? So
That's
it's a text.
actually one of our stocks.
I know, we're only
tonight.
talking about that about half an hour ago, weren't we?
Well, we're going to be talking about that very shortly.
Oh, we are going to be talking about it very shortly.
Very
so
soon.
Gerard, bad luck. We're not going to answer your question.
No, you can't say that.
Oh, we can't say that.
You can't say that. All right, Gerard, we are going to answer your question. So he wants to know about S32. Was it something in particular that Gerard wanted to know?
I don't think. Is it time to buy or is it time to buy or wait?
Oh, look, he's trying to get in early and catch the falling knife.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is no.
I was going to say yes. It's
That
yes
means-
for both. It's
Does
time
that
to buy,
mean
but yes, wait.
collectively we're on the fence, yeah?
Okay.
It means both.
All right, I'll keep
Okay.
quiet. 'cause
So
I'm-
look, the point is here, if we're looking at the longer term chart, we're seeing here that there's still a bit of indecision. The opens and closes on the bars are at that bottom, but there's no confirmation that that low is actually in. We think there's a high probability that it is the bottom. We're not, we can't confirm it at this stage. It's just way too early to confirm it.
Yeah, I mean, this stock could have a little bit more of just a final washout. It could have that, and that's what I've been waiting for. I like the stock, but I think we need to see. Currently, Gerard, this is on a downtrend. There is absolutely zero, 100% guarantee.
On that monthly chart.
It is definitely in a downtrend. There's no argument about that. It's definitely in a downtrend on a weekly chart, and you need to assume it's going to continue in a downtrend until it tells us it's not. And that's really where I'm coming from at the moment. So whilst we've had a nice little move down into September down to that 319, we haven't confirmed that is the low, and so right now we've just had 2 days here, yesterday and today. So we've had that low back in September at that $3.19, 1 week up. Very indecisive bar, another indecisive bar this week so far, pushed up, it's come right back. And if we look at today, it's probably fallen away today. A big bar yesterday, and today's a little bit here, but I would suggest it's probably going to come back a little bit. So in my mind, this is nowhere near enough for me to, I love S32, I do want to own it for myself. I'm just sitting on the sidelines, and to me, wait is a 4-letter word, I know, but I think that's what we should be doing.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, it could take off like a rocket, but right now, no.
Fantastic.
I'm sitting back waiting.
All right.
How's that?
Well, look, I really like what you had to say, and I hope that Gerard did as well. Thanks, Gerard. We've got lots to get into now. We've got our topic, which is about precious metals. And I don't know about you, Dale, but precious metals is something that I always get excited about.
Well, my wife gets excited about precious metals. We're talking about gold.
Oh, I know.
Silver,
Palladium, platinum.
All the platinum.
And now rhodium. Did you know that one?
I don't even know how to spell rhodium. Do you know how to spell rhodium?
Only because I looked it up.
God. All right, well, we need to get into our hot topic for tonight. Not our hot topic for tonight. Well, our topic is hot at the moment because we're going to be talking about precious metals and everything else, and all of those ones that Janine actually mentioned. And we also got some great stocks for you to look at. We're going to be looking at a deep dive. S32, we're going to be getting into BHP and a few others, aren't we?
No, we're not getting into BHP. We did that last week.
Oh, we did too.
I didn't want to repeat. I could have.
Can I rewind that bit?
But I've tried to pick different stocks, and we're sort of going on. We're going on the line of a few more speculative type stocks, particularly in the talking wealth part, which is at the bonus content. We're going to be talking about some more specky type shares.
For more specky type shares for our subscribers.
Yeah. Okay. But look, first of all, can I just share my quote with you?
You can.
So my quote is by Deborah Fisher, and an American scientist and author who said, we now know that stars which are abundant in heavy metals are 5 times more likely to harbour orbiting planets than stars that are deficit in metals. Wow, that's science for you. You like, you know...
Is this your what the segment?
Look, when I was reading that, it made me think about all of these, I guess, guys with deep pockets that are trying to travel to different planets and make it commercial. Yeah. And there's talk about mining of a lot of stars and different bodies orbiting the Earth to try to extract minerals from that, because they're looking at, well, when we run out of that or it's too hard to dig it out of the ground here, they're going to be looking into space for where they can get those minerals or different minerals.
Okay.
So that's why I thought this was appropriate, because it's all about these precious metals.
I'll let you get away with that. I'll let you get away with that.
Okay. All right, fantastic. God. So when you think of precious metals, and what else do you think about?
What else do I think about? What, gold and silver are you talking about?
Not particular metals.
Are you talking about electric vehicles and batteries and all that sort of stuff? Their uses for all that sort of stuff?
That's right. So look, the landscape for precious metals continues to change. So keep an eye on this for some big opportunities. Now, you know, Dale, it amazed me after COVID to see some of those precious metal prices soar around the time of the Russian invasion. Now, but as demand has shifted, and so have the prices of platinum and palladium and rhodium, which have fallen significantly. And this is going to really have you saying, wow, look how far they've gone down if you haven't seen a chart of rhodium. Now, rhodium has fell more than 80% recently. We've seen the gold price push to a new all-time high in comparing sort of precious metals and their uses. But rhodium historically has been far more expensive than gold. But, you know, these things are cyclical. So all of a sudden you'll see something that's in huge demand, the price takes off, which is what happened with rhodium, and then all of a sudden it's back to almost nothing by comparison to where it was at the high. And we've seen this in the history, and we're going to have a look at a chart.
You know, my nose is pretty good, Janine. It smells like opportunity to me.
Fantastic. It says that your ability to sniff out a bargain still serves you correctly. But the message I want to emphasise is to really be selective here, because, you know, it's all about the size of the company and what risk you're willing to take. So gold and silver have held up incredibly well, so obviously much lower risk than, say, rhodium and the other metals, platinum and palladium. Gold, and it's the safe haven asset, so it makes sense, doesn't it, in times of uncertainty. And these are uncertain times, we all know that. So while gold may be held at the right time for medium and long term, silver's considered more speculative. That's something to bear in mind. So gold, you can sort of get away with hanging on to gold and then eventually it recovers. But I guess we've got to think about this like anything, because whether it's gold or silver, they're all cyclical. Well, so eventually they're going to fall.
I mean, I have to agree with them. I mean, there are really some exciting opportunities in this sort of area. So, and I'm really keen to get into what you've got for us. So what have you got for us actually?
Okay, well, how about we have a look at the price charts of the most important precious metals so that we can understand the potential, and then we can have a chat briefly about platinum and some of these metals. As I assume most of our viewers will be familiar with gold and silver, so these other ones maybe they may not have seen.
All right, so we're going to go and have a look at gold. We're going to bring a price of gold chart up, so we're going to get into that. So how about we bring that up on the screen right now?
Yeah, why don't we just take a look at what we think and where the gold price is likely to go. So I just thought I'd put some lines on a chart. So when we're teaching students how to analyse the market, whether it's be a commodity, currency or stock, whatever it is, we're looking for levels where the stocks might actually find support or resistance. So that I've drawn some lines on the chart to show that.
Can I interrupt you for a second and just say why is that important?
Because all stocks have psychological resistance levels and they turn at certain prices.
So this is what these blue lines are all about?
Basically, they're warning signs, right? So they're saying, okay, if the price goes above this level or goes towards this level, it may turn and
So
pull
it's
back.
like your GPS telling you to get ready for the exit.
More
or the
less.
entry.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where you get onto the freeway, you get off the freeway.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? Because I'm just trying to help people understand what it is about these levels that we're talking about, because not everybody watching tonight is one of our students or graduates, so we need to obviously make it aware of it. So what are you saying?
What we do is we generally have a look and see. We can see there's a really strong one there where those three highs are. So we know the next level that I've determined is somewhere up around here.
That 2281, yep.
Yep. And then I've got one which is a stretch target up around 2,500 an ounce. So it's not out of the question for gold to eventually be tracking up to that level.
Okay.
Now, this is really important, this one underneath.
That's 1789, yep.
Yeah, so if it comes back, at the moment, you know, we're thinking it may just sort of track around the angle of this line. However, given it's fallen below it, we could see it head back down to 1700.
But this pattern looks really, I mean, have you ever seen a pattern like this on gold before? Like, you know, we're talking about it's been hit its all-time high like 3 times in a row, sort of over a period of the last couple of years.
Well, not recently anyway, not like that.
But I'm just looking at the whole history of gold. Do you see this sort of thing normally? It looks a bit strange to me.
But it's very strong, obviously. So look, in seeing, if this level got broken and the stock continued below that blue line that I've mentioned, then the theory is that we could go anywhere from there.
Then we could go anywhere, yeah.
You know, we could see gold come back to this low here, or it could come back to my worst case scenario here.
Okay.
So, but at this stage, I'm not expecting gold to do that.
Okay. So this is the only chart we're looking at. Are we going to look at silver as well? Or?
That's gold. Yep. Next.
Okay. So what have we got next?
So silver, as I said before, is a really good one for trading. It's more short term in nature.
Yep.
At the moment, but even silver could turn into a medium term proposition depending on how it unfolds. So, but right now it's being sold off. So you just let it go. Let's just see and let it unfold. But there will be some really good opportunities in silver down the track, and we will come back and let people know about those.
Okay, so with silver, I know it has a correlation to gold in terms of, obviously, it tends to lag a bit of gold, doesn't it?
But as you can see, the chart looks nothing like that of gold.
Well, no, that's the point. I'm just saying,
look at but
you know, it's like when you're looking at this chart of silver, it doesn't look like the chart of gold, but you can see it looks completely different, doesn't it?
Exactly.
You know, but you know, it'll
different uses. You know, it's
different. Yeah, it's
different demand. So you know, they are going to be different, but there is often talk about that, and maybe that's the industry trying to, you know, encourage people to take on silver when they're selling gold.
Possibly. Now we've got another one to go through, have we? Was this one?
Yes, we do. Palladium futures.
Palladium futures.
So palladium's interesting, isn't it? In that it's actually had a really deep dive, extremely volatile movement in price through this low here. So about 65%. Yeah. And I'm just going to check my chart on your workbook just in case.
Why is it my workbook? You made it.
Yeah, that's true. So looking here, we can see that's $1,200 or thereabouts. But there we are, down there, $1,200. Now, with palladium, there are different uses, obviously, to platinum, but all of these sort of more exotic metals are connected back to the auto industry.
Yep.
So there's a huge demand there, but
for cars.
But because of COVID, and then we had the supply constraints, and we've got this big push towards EV.
Yep.
And since internal combustion engines are actually in theory, being phased out, but not so much here in Australia right away, but in some countries they will be phased out significantly around 2030 or thereafter. So therefore, some of these metals are under threat, if you like, because of those supply
Under
equation.
threat of what? I'm running out, or
No, just the supply equation changing because the demand is not going to be as great.
I gotcha. So because we're stop building internal combustion engines, that's what you're saying?
Yes, and also there's another interesting point too, is that that a lot of these metals can be recycled. So the more they are able to recycle these metals, then the less demand for the ore that's pulled out of the ground.
But isn't that a cost equation then?
Well, it is
it cheaper to dig it out of the ground or recycle it?
Exactly, but there's a drive to recycle everything at the moment. It's not whether it's
also there should
metals,
be. There should have always
plastic
been
bags,
a drive to recycle things.
Building materials.
All right, so we've got another chart. We've got one more.
We do.
Right, for this period.
Platinum's an interesting one. We can see there more closely aligned with silver in terms of the way the chart looks. And I'm not suggesting that if you traded silver, you could necessarily trade this the same way. That's an experiment that you'd have to test to see whether you could. But I really like this from a trading point of view.
It's quite volatile.
I like it better than silver, I'd have to say, in terms of what you could do with it, given the way that it moves. In these short moves in price and the opportunity that a short-term trader could find, I think is really interesting. But again, it's down. It's not the time to buy any of the ones that are falling down until they start to turn back up again. But it's good just to have a big picture thought in your mind about what's trading where and how far these things have fallen in price from their peaks. Look at where platinum was at the high in 2008.
I know. That's
so
huge.
It was really defensive when COVID, when the GFC
GFC was on, yeah.
All right. Well, did you want to say anything more?
No, I'm finished with platinum.
Okay, well, look, I know that you were so interested and excited about seeing those metal charts, weren't you?
Well, it is.
So now why don't we take a look at something else? And this is actually a chart of rhodium, because I couldn't find the chart of rhodium in Optima at the moment. So I went on a search and I found this this is moneymetals.com, and I don't have any affiliation with them. I'm not even suggesting that, that there's any need to see them, but I just thought this was a really nice little chart, just the way that it stood out. So congratulations
to them. Price has
to
gone from 30,000 down to zip almost. Wow.
Yeah, so if let's look at all the data just to see what's happened over time. We know that where there's been a market correction back here in 2003, we can see that the price was rising before that, it went down. Prior to the GFC, this is all about consumption, isn't it, when you think about it? People have more money and prices continue to rise, and then we see a big correction. That's what we've seen recently as well, into the period where COVID was. You could say that with COVID coming on, consumption of a lot of things went through the roof, because people were at home, they had more time, and they started to buy things instead of spending their money on travel. They were spending their money on things if they could get them.
Okay. And
so then we've seen this fall away since. So, does that mean we're going to see this big space of time of nothing between its uses? I'm not suggesting that's the case at this point, but has the time for rhodium passed, for good prices? That's what the chart seems to suggest, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will.
I mean, we have to think about that, don't we? We also have to think about the rising demand for electric vehicles. I mean, that's just going through the roof. I mean, lower demand for, diesel and petrol engines, as you mentioned before, which means the metals are not going to be in demand, which is what we were chatting about before. Building in these internal combustion engines, we're not going to be using those metals, but we can recycle them, can't we?
Well, that's a fun fact, and the greenies will be really proud of you for that on both counts.
Good point, but I never thought I would make a greenie happy. I never thought I'd be getting into that. But it does bring up an interesting point, as I know if they can, if they can dig it out of the ground, eventually they'll find a use for it. But I mean, that really doesn't make this. Is it really going to benefit the society, or is it benefiting the planet? That's the thing. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Well, look, there's this huge potential for hydrogen fuel cells, which is coming up. And this is the area where I think people need to sort of really watch what's going on there, because, I mean, how do you feel about EVs? I mean, you and I have had a number of discussions about them before, and about lithium. And, Dale came into work one day and he says to me, I watched the boys, driving their cars, and they were driving a lithium vehicle, and apparently it blew up and it just kept burning for days and days. This is
The Top Gear,
Top
the Top
Gear?
Gear guys, yes.
and so there's this thought of, well, could that potentially happen with electric vehicles? I mean,
Well, it
lithium
can.
in its raw state just is highly volatile. So it just seems to me that this whole idea of the alternative, these hydrogen fuel cells, makes sense. But
Well, it does. I mean, you're talking about, hydrogen to me is really, really exciting, and I've been watching a lot of documentaries on hybrid and what they're actually doing with it but I did want to stay on platinum for a little bit more, I really do want to bring out some information from an article published by Reuters to have a really good look at that, because it really explains the demand from platinum, because we can talk about EVs till the cows come home.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a perfect example, and this article talks about rising demand from the automakers.
Yep.
Industry and investors will push the global platinum market into its biggest deficit in years. That wasn't just from one source, it actually came from 3 industry reports, according to the article.
Oh, okay, so what else did it say about
Well,
platinum?
hot on the trail of opportunities, a super sleuth you could call me, I found that the World Platinum Investment Council predicted the biggest deficit in supply since at least 2014.
Wow.
And also, Johnson Matthey's have predicted total, and I have to turn the page, sorry about this, demand for lithium will be up 19% in 2023, and that platinum will fall by around 1%, and rhodium demand will rise by around 6%.
Okay, so platinum and rhodium is the one to watch.
Okay.
Yep, so that's what we've got here. So more so for platinum for now, and of course we can't forget, the obligatory gold and silver. We need to be looking at those as well. Now, I assume we're just waiting for the price of these metals to bottom out, are we?
Yeah, well, we are. In terms of gold and silver,
Yep.
definitely. The others may have already bottomed.
Okay.
But the metals like rhodium, it may be a slow boat, but platinum may turn faster. There's just an opportunity there with platinum more so than the others. So, we need to look. We need to look at the stocks. But I actually found something out about gold, the gold price mid-year.
Okay, so this is some commentary from ANZ that you found in the World Bank one. So
That's right. Yep.
Well, good one.
Thanks for that. The article reads, ANZ Research projected gold to be trading at around $2,100 an ounce by the close of 2023, accelerating to $2,200 by September 2024. The World Bank's long-term gold price forecast expected gold prices to finish 2023 at $1,900. Now that's actually below ANZ's, isn't it? Falling $1,750 by the end of 2024.
Wow.
So, who are we going to believe? Are we going to believe ANZ or are we going to believe the World Bank?
Well, clearly a decision by reserve banks will have an impact on the gold price moving forward. They always do. Now, banks are also talking that rates could be cut next year. I know I was talking about that yesterday, but they're also saying that the rates may remain higher for a longer period of time. Now, if inflation does strengthen, and it did a little bit last month, we saw that, this will put downward pressure on the gold price as money moves into currencies, because if you've got higher interest rates, more people will go into currencies rather than gold.
Right.
From that point of view.
And these are all interesting points, but I think we could talk on about this for a while, and we're still waiting for the paint to dry, so to speak. So we may as well get into the stocks.
I never thought you'd ask. So let's get into the stocks. So what have we got?
So let's have a look here, right? We've got the first one I wanted to have a look at is quite interesting.
As you are.
Because this is real impact, isn't it?
Oh,
Janine wants to put up
huge.
something that's
Look at
just
that.
taken off like a rocket. Now, can we trade that now?
Can we trade it now? I suppose you can trade anything.
Yeah.
But it's
no, the answer
way
is
gone.
It's gone, hasn't it?
It's
but
gone.
if a stock's done that once, there's a real probability it could do it again.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean it will, and it doesn't mean... I remember we had some people call into the show and they were looking at stocks that had taken off like a rocket and they wanted to buy more. Remember that?
Yeah, I know.
So if people are holding this stock, just because the stock's risen up the way that it has, it doesn't mean, you've made profit on this first parcel, now let's go and put more money into the thing and see if we can make more money out of it. And it might not run from here. It might
But
fall
those
away.
sorts of people are trying to buy yesterday's returns. They've seen it gone up 200, 500,000%, and they go, cool.
Yep.
And they think that's going to be in their skyrocket. If they buy today, it's going to happen again. isn't
Mate,
it?
you could be the suckers. You know, this could be the rally, and then the suckers are all coming in now thinking they've missed out. The FOMO kicks in.
Well, it is, because you can look at the volumes just going right into that, back through here.
Yep.
The market, it had already moved. If I go from that point there to this point here, you can see there's 170% nearly to that point there, and the volume's still low. And then all of a sudden it takes off into this area here, which is this bar here. Here's your big bar there, Friday the 16th of June, which is this bar here. So it's gone up 200+% by the time volume's coming in here.
Which
and then it goes.
didn't even really make a blip though for that biggest volume surge,
I
which is
know.
interesting. So there must have really been trickle feeding in those trades really small. But
So-
look, this is a nice little one to keep an eye on, I think, for future short-term traders who are interested in making a
If you're
profit
in
on
it,
that.
hang on to it.
Yep, exactly. But set a stop loss. All right, now we've got Evolution Mining.
I like this stock.
A nice gold and silver stock there. This looks really nice, doesn't it? Now, you're probably wondering why we're saying that, because the price is pulling back, but that's exactly what we want to see, for this move to come down. We don't care how far it goes, really, do we? If it keeps falling, we don't care, because we're not holding it at the
If I'm
moment.
not owning, I don't care how far it
That's
goes.
right. And the further it falls, the better, often, because you can get a better pinpoint about where you are. So right now, that's looking really interesting and definitely one to watch.
It looks so orderly, doesn't it? It looks like it's something, it's doing, just being normal, if that makes
It
sense.
does. It looks normal,
And I
doesn't
think it looks normal.
But
It's
note that
doing
this,
well.
this actually fell more than Northern Star. So Evolution got, it
It did.
plunged a lot more. So there's that to think about as well in terms of volatility there. So the next one we've got is Liontown
Liontown.
Resources. Now, there's a takeover at the moment with Liontown. So this is the one that we were talking about where, I think this is the one we mentioned on a previous show.
We did.
Yeah, and I think it was an overseas...
We did a whole show on lithium on that.
an overseas company that was talking about taking it
Correct.
over, but I know that Gina Reinhardt is in there in the lithium area, and she's really looking at opportunities and trying to keep it, in Australia and keep the profits coming back in Australia
So it should be.
rather than them going offshore. So market capitalisation, 6.5 billion. They've got battery minerals, and that includes lithium. So quite an exciting prospect. I'm hoping that it doesn't get taken off the
Do you think it's
boards.
just stalling right now and it's going to take another run, or do you think it's got to come down
Well,
before
I think
it goes
it's all
up?
speculation right now until things sort itself out. So we really just got to wait and see
So you
what
say,
happens
what
with
I'm
it.
asking is, what are you suggesting people do? If they're sitting on it without it, not
Well,
owning
look,
it right now, they just sit back and watch
if
it?
they're not owning it, I wouldn't be touching it right now, because you and I both know that if a takeover falls over, the share price drops.
Correct. So just wait. If it does,
Yeah.
if the takeover falls over, then it
Then
might
you
be
just
10 to buy
watch.
after it drops.
Exactly.
All right. So what have we got
All
now?
right.
Silver Lake?
Oh, okay, I don't want to fight over the mouse, do we?
Well, no, you'd win.
Okay, Silver Lake Resources, SLR, market cap 766 million, gold, copper, silver. I like this chart.
This does look. It's
It's
beautiful.
just, people look at that and think, oh my God, how can Dale say that? He says it looks terrible if it's fallen away so much. But, it's just really organised, just the way that
One
it's
man's
fallen.
gold is another man's silver.
Yeah, yeah. And it's sort of coming into this, one of the things that I like about this, it's sort of coming into this narrow peak. If I just put two lines, now this is not sort of like technically done, but you can just see as the stock falls, these lows are getting lower, the highs are getting lower. Eventually there'll be some consolidation and agreement in price, and we'll see a breakout out of that. And a trend line will get crossed. So that's what we want to see eventually. There's a nice trend line down there. So, but it could be a number of months before we see that happening. It's not a buy right now. We're trying to teach you to be patient and just to take some of the opportunities that we present, because the market's been sideways for a couple of years, 2.5 years or so now.
has.
It's very frustrating. But when we come out of this, there's going to be some of the best opportunities in Australia that you just don't want to miss.
I will be. If you know what you're looking for and you get yourself ready. That's what I've been pushing on my market wrap every single week at the last month or so, is saying now's the perfect time to get ready. Because it's
Exactly.
going to go ballistic soon.
You're right.
Maybe not right now. Anything else you want to say on Silver Lake before you move on to another one?
No, I like it. So far, that's my preferred.
That's your preferred. Okay, there we go. So next one we've got is
Palladium Minerals. Now, this is an interesting one because this stock's actually has all the platinum group metals that we talked about before. So it's got platinum, palladium, and palladium and rhodium. Gold and nickel, copper, sulfide, so a whole mix, and yet look at the share price.
I know, this is ridiculous because obviously this all-time high.
So I'd have to do a bit more research to find out what's actually gone on with this one. Whether it's just, like we saw on platinum, palladium and rhodium, we've seen the prices fall significantly because this looks like the rhodium chart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if that's what it is, then that's fine, but maybe you guys out there will do a little bit of research to find out. Yeah. But I'd still be keeping an eye on it. It's not ready now. And
it's just shallowing out and the ranges are getting smaller, so it's basing at the moment, or starting that basing pattern. So
but it's way too early yet. And you need to let it run. It's going to come up in the news at some point. It'll have gone up X%, and everybody will think, oh wow, now's the time to buy it. But it could still be a suckers rally like we've seen with some stocks recently.
Yeah.
So just watch for that.
All right, so now we've got S32, which is what we talked a little bit about earlier.
Yep. Market cap 15.5 billion. They've got a huge list ready. Bauxite, aluminium, copper, silver, lead, zinc,
aluminium, or if you're American, aluminum.
Can't get it out today. So this is what we talked about before, but the risk with S32, which we didn't mention before, is that it could fall all the way down here. So it might not have completely finished. There's a level somewhere around $3. It's an important point. Around close to that zone, we could see it fall back to that level before it stops.
My support level is below that. It's about 270.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think 270 is probably.
Are you trying to wish it down?
Absolutely. If I can get it for 260, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'll get it.
But you're not going to be trying to buy it at the low, though.
No. I just think that's the level it'll probably get down to. So if it gets down to 260 and it comes up to 270 and tells me it's strong, I might.
Well, what if it doesn't give you an entry until it's back up at $3?
I'll still buy it at $3 because as I was sort of explaining yesterday, it's like I'd rather leave stuff on the bottom because people that try and bottom pick are the ones that really get smelly fingers, basically.
Oh my goodness, I need help. Somebody.
They get caught out. Like at the end of the day, you don't try and bottom pick. It's the worst time to do it because if it's going down, then it's high probability it'll continue to go down until it doesn't.
Okay.
So I'd rather it to go up to tell me it's strong before I get into it.
But look, there's another thought too that I had here. If I can just put something else on the chart there. If we just look at perhaps an angle up there, is it possible it could fall all the way to $2.80? You said did you say 260,
270?
That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so we've got another stock?
Yeah, let's have a look.
S32 is firmly on my watch list right now.
Perseus Mining, market cap 2.14 billion, gold and minerals. Now, we've seen this plunge from this recent high here. Now, let's have a look how far we've fallen.
This looks interesting.
So that's a nice fall. To get to 33% or 40%?
Yeah, 38%, 40, yep.
Yep, that's a nice little fall to have on a stock, but it's not finished. So it's recently just taken out this low. And we've got some really strong support across the bottom there. I'm just going to draw a line across here. We'll see it there. And, it's possible that the stock could come all the way back to that point, in which time we might get a trend line.
Look,
interesting.
If it doesn't hold there, it's going to go to $1, but I like that. I do like it at the moment. It looks nice.
Okay, great.
I think I'd put this on my watch list too. There's a few of these I'd have on my watch list getting ready.
Now, I decided to do something different and out of the box, and that is, I'll just hide what I've got there on that squiggly line because that's the spot price. So this is actually an ETF.
On physical
silver, right? So it's supposed to mirror more or less the silver price, and it does look pretty similar to it. I'm just going to check something on the chart there because I can see a big gap there. But when we're looking at this, it's extremely volatile. Just have a look at what it's done. Now, I don't like giving power to ETFs, as you know, neither does Dale. But sometimes there are ETFs that, I can't even click on it, that you might have to use to be able to get exposure to certain areas. But I don't think this is the case with gold and silver. There's plenty of good stocks to be able to put your money into without having to go to an ETF.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people using ETFs for specific things like this, or rare earths is
or
an
technology
ETF,
or battery,
or technology,
ETFs.
or robotics, or something like that, or artificial intelligence, or something that's a little bit harder for us to understand. But when you're talking about gold and silver, it's like pretty simple. You can buy stocks,
especially gold.
Especially gold. There's plenty of stocks you can buy in gold, but But if they want to have a go, there's no problem.
You know, what's interesting here is then to overlay the spot price of silver, which I did. Whoop, and I can't see it now. But we can see there that it's more or less following that silver price in terms of its overall movements, which is what you want to see.
All right, Janine, well, that is it for our topic for tonight. For those watching on YouTube, you can watch the remainder of our show by simply taking a couple of minutes to secure your free 7-day subscription to talkingwealth.com. In doing so, you gain access to the full version of tonight's Australian stock market show, including the second part of the show where we break down several stocks in more detail. Now, you can also get to watch my weekly Australian stock market report where I share lots of hot stocks each and every week. This week, I took a deep dive into material stocks with some really exciting potential, Janine.
Well, look, I might have to watch that one myself. For me, the best thing about Talking Wealth are all the interviews. Now, if I can think of a topic about any aspect of wealth creation, health and mindset, then I can watch it there anytime on demand. So and it's just nothing better than that. We just released an interview with precious metals expert Dana Samuelson and have another one coming out this week. So be sure to check those out when you get the chance. Talking Wealth subscribers also get access to the full live show every week, and you can keep up to date on the market and exciting opportunities. Dale analyses them for you, so no need to do anything. Just head over to talkingwealth.com.
Now, Janine, we know you love finding opportunities. So, Janine, here is your opportunity for you to get into your What That segment tonight.
Well, thanks, Dale. And I must say that this week I was distracted while looking for a great what the.
It's not unusual for you to be distracted, is it?
Well, actually, my stomach was rumbling and all I could think about was food.
Geez, that's unlike you, isn't it? Normally it's the stock market you're craving for, and then food comes second, but if it's chocolate, it's first.
Yeah, well, that's cute. Let me show you what I found then and tell me what you think of this. Now, this article was on Stockhead. Firstly, the title reads, Ethical Investor, ESG versus Sustainability Investing. Which should investors choose and why? Now I know which one I'm choosing. Have a look at the options. I'll take the chocolate one.
What the donuts is that? What's that?
What's that got to do with ESG?
What's donuts got to do with ESG? I mean,
I don't know.
I
You'd
don't
have to ask
understand the title
Stockhead.
because ESG's the S in ESG is sustainable. So
It got my attention though. Can donuts be
anything
sustainable?
sugary gets your attention.
Okay, I like to share, and that's why it's an image of two donuts. So
God, you've lost it, haven't you? Do I have to take over again?
I had this idea. I was going to bring in two donuts, one for you and me. No, I've got to come back to earth now. A strawberry one, but I'm thinking I should just eat both. What do you think?
I would happily
What
let
about
you.
the waistline?
I would happily let you eat both donuts because I'm not a big donut person.
What are we going to do about the waistline though?
Don't worry about my waistline. My wife worries about it.
Yeah, the image can come from an article on Stockhead's newsletter about the important differences between ESG and sustainability investing. Now, ESG stands for environmental, social and governance, I should say, and these are factors that can help investors to make a decision about whether or not to invest. It's all about specific guidelines for businesses. Whereas sustainability investing is more general. Now, it's about investing in areas of development that meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Now, it gives priority to the needs of the world's poor while considering the limitations of the environment to meet present and future needs. The real question is, should investors put ESG and sustainability investing at the top of their list when choosing investments for their portfolios? Now, some people have. You looked at a survey recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done a couple of podcasts on the ASX shareholder survey.
Are they released yet?
The podcast? I did one about a month ago on it, and I did one yesterday, which will go out next week.
Okay.
And it talks about what people talk about, but the one I've already released talks about ESG investing and how many people do it and what percentages and why they actually do it. So yes.
And was it you found that young people were quite involved?
But hey, older people too.
Well, would you like to have a look at some ESG funds and sustainability funds?
No, not particularly. But I know that you will insist I do, so I might just as well capitulate and
Give in.
give in. So show us what you got to share.
Well, what better way to do this than on common ground? Now let's get into the charts. So this is our common ground.
This is our common ground.
No
Okay.
fighting. All right. So this is the SPDR S&P ASX 200 ESG fund. So we're looking at this, but I don't. It
That
doesn't
looks pretty
really.
crap.
Well, it does. But look, if we were to be fair, we've just looked at stocks that are falling, and we're saying, okay, that's fine. Let it fall. I'll worry about it when it's bottomed. Now, this could very well keep going and take out this low, but then after that point, it'd be when there's an opportunity, not while it's still falling.
So what's the other chart?
So not impressed.
No.
Next one is Beta Shares. We like Beta
More
Shares. Global
impressed with this one.
Sustainability Leaders ETF. Now this is Ethi, which is really cute for ethical, ETHI. And what a beautiful trend.
I like this
it's
one.
had. This is really nice. Now we're seeing a bit of a reversal happen at the moment. It might just turn around and go back up again. There's a bit of resistance where it is just right there that it has to get over. However, that looks quite nice, doesn't it?
I like that one. So there you go.
It's one
I like
for your
that
watch
one.
list. All right. Should we have one more, or is that
I
enough?
don't know. Do you have one more?
I do.
No more.
Oh, well, that is it for our What the segment. And what I would love to do now is to chat to you and answer your questions. So come on, pick up your phone and give us a call on 039290 9988. That's 039290 9988. Or you can text the number on your screen. Whilst we wait for your call, let's get into the next email.
Okay.
Now it's time you were very enthusiastic. We get into the next question, which is from Calvin. Hello, Dale and Janine. I'm a keen Talking Wealth disciple, thank you, who has acquired everything up to the investor pack. Well done. Dale's books and DVDs share how undertaking a Wealth Within course would clearly deliver greater trading and investment benefits. I should also state I've been enjoying superior returns in my portfolio since adopting the simple yet effective Wealth Within principles a few years ago. I wanted to share my experience with Brickworks. Now that's an interesting stock as a medium longer term trade using Wealth Within principles. So entry was on 24th of the 8th, 22 at $21.20 on the weekly or monthly uptrend. Monitoring weekly and monthly charts showed a general momentum type rise in price to all-time highs, peaking at around $28.49 just 3 weeks ago. Now suddenly the price is getting smashed. No ESX announcements for Brickworks or SOL, indicating this culminating in a one-day drop of 7% on an otherwise quiet trading day on the ASX, the 28th of the 9th, 23. This was around an 18% fall from the high and hence exceeded my 15% trailing stop loss, triggering a sell at 24.10 or thereabouts. The killer announcement, SOL BKW has a significant ownership in, or BKW has a significant ownership in SOL, reported record profits and an increased final dividend for the umpteenth year in a row, although also an impairment from the acquisition of Milton Corporation a year earlier. You've blown me up for this. Did you write this email?
Every word of it.
Evidently the impairment has won out. Don't want to steal, and yep, I don't know what the next word is.
Want to steal Janine's piece, but what the? So yeah, well.
No, I don't know where I'm up to. As all good Wers know, Wealth Withiners know, the market is the market and we don't have any control over it, just when we enter and exit. So I've taken my smaller profit and dividends, time to move on through the watch list for another candidate stock to trade and invest with that capital. Thanks so much for all you provide to the self-directed investor or trader, and I do promise to do the diploma course when circumstances allow. Best wishes, Calvin. Oh, thank you, Calvin. That's fantastic.
Big email. Great email. And I think it's great that he's using what he's learnt from the books and the DVDs that he's bought from us, and he's making good money and doing really well. But Brickworks, interesting. On the screen, I'll put the marks on the right-hand side here on the weekly chart. But it's a great-looking stock. If you look at, here, it's just trending really, really well. But he's bought in somewhere around here. He's bought in at that, obviously on that green line around that 21.20 area. And I think he said around August 2022. So he's bought in an uptrend, but I can't see there's really a buy right there where he bought it, but hey, we can fine tune that. But he's done all right when it got up to here, but look at this big move, and he said there was a big move through last week.
There has to be an announcement or something
Well,
somewhere.
this was interesting. I got a question yesterday and on ResMed, and saying that ResMed had this big, great financials, like Brickworks, great financials, but it's tanked. What happened, Dale? And so I went into ResMed, read the financials, and it's great. They increased their profit, increased profits and all sorts of stuff, but they increased their dividend, same as Brickworks. So what happened? And with ResMed, when I was doing a lot more research, I found out that the short sellers were shorting it. And this is why I was saying, you and me are like dead against this sort of stuff, because obviously they've borrowed the stock and shorted it to push it down. But they were thinking that there's a new diet pill that's, not diet pill, an obesity pill, because all of us, ResMed is in that sleep apnea space, so if less people are obese.
As soon as that news comes out, they just plot together.
And they plot it together and they've driven it down. I don't know what's happened with Brickworks, but as Kelvin rightly said, you can only troll when you get in and get out. So he's taken a stop loss. I don't have an issue with that. I think that's great. He's protected his capital. He's got a smaller loss. I think it's great with the level of knowledge he's got. Don't have a problem with that. But he could have used a trend line up through here too. Because if we draw a trend line through here, if I just grab my trusty little trend line tool, but it's looking late.
Yeah, see, people think that they get concerned about losing a bit off the top, but you have to lose something for it to allow it to unfold.
Yeah, but it's interesting what people are like. They don't want to lose some of their profit, but they're quite happy to lose some of their capital. So they don't take their stop losses, when they buy and they let it drop away. But then when it comes to their profit, they'll cut it short.
Yep.
They'll cut it at 10%, or they'll just get out too early and not allow their stock to have that movement around. So I think what Kelvin's done is great. I think it's fantastic. He's following rules. I think it's brilliant that he's making money and he's consistently. He is, and this is what I find. I get lots of emails from people who've read my books, and they're just making more money than they ever did. And it's like, wow. And to me, simple rules and techniques to do. So, but this
is a really good stock. Would you buy this one?
Not today, no, not today, but I would put this in my portfolio. I think
What's the liquidity like?
That's not too bad, actually. If you're looking at the stock, it's pretty consistent. You're talking about, it's on that sort of mid-cappy sort of size, but it's not too bad, around, million-ish shares. This is a week, so it's not too bad, but it's quite consistent, so I don't mind it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's all that we have on Brickworks. Now, we hope you enjoyed our show on YouTube. Show your support for us by commenting below this video, because we'd love to hear your favourite part of the show. Also, give us a big thumbs up. Now, it really helps new people discover these videos, and make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you know when we go live. For those watching via Talking Wealth, stay tuned for the bonus content we promised.
In next week's show, we take a look at biotech and pharmaceutical stocks. We'll also take your phone calls, answer your questions, and so much more. So make sure you put next Tuesday night show on your calendar. Remember, if you do have a stock that you want us to look at, or you have a burning question, then send an email right now to info@wealthwithin.com.au. And then watch next Tuesday night show as we give you the answer. Also, give us a big thumbs up by liking the show and making sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you comment below this video about what was your favourite stock from tonight's show. Now it's time to say goodbye to our viewers on YouTube. We do hope you enjoyed what we presented tonight. For those watching on talkingwealth.com, stay tuned with us for your bonus content. As always, thank you for joining us, but for now, goodbye, good luck and good trading.